Hello, children. We are going to start the second chapter, Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, written by Annie's Jung. This lesson is an excerpt from Annie's Jung's book entitled Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. She analyzes the grinding poverty and traditions which torment the lives of innocent children. It may be the story of a Sahib of Simapuri who is a rag picker, or Mukesh of Firozabad who is a bangle maker. These all children lead life of misery. Every child laborer shares the same poverty, dirt, and exploitation everywhere. This lesson describes the terrible conditions of these child laborers. These are the children who didn't get to enjoy their childhood because of prevailing socio-economic conditions in this world. The children don't have the opportunity for schooling. Moreover, there's a lot of pressure on the children to enter into the life of a labor. These unfortunate children who are forced into labor are denied the opportunity for education and enjoyment. The author Annie Jung raises voice to eliminate child labor. Jung does this by raising awareness regarding child education and strict law enforcement against child labor. The call is to put an end to the exploitation of children. This way, the children will be able to enjoy the days of the spring and have fun. And these are the children who have lost spring of life in their life, and that's why the title Lost Spring by Annie's Jung. Introduction of this chapter, Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. The story Lost Spring describes the pitiable conditions of poor children who have been forced to miss the joys of childhood due to the socio-economic conditions that prevails in this man-made world. The children are denied the opportunity of schooling and forced into labor early in life. Annie Jung gives voice to eliminate child labor by educating the children and to enforce the laws against child labor by the government strictly. The call is to end child exploitation and let the children enjoy the days of the spring that bring joy under their feet. Introduction of the writer. Annie Jung is an author, journalist, and a columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad. She was born in Hyderabad in the year 1944 in an aristocratic family. Her father, Nawab Hosh Yar Jung, was a renowned scholar and poet. He was advisor to the last Nizam of Hyderabad, Priestley Street. Her schooling and graduation were completed from her hometown. Later she went abroad for higher studies. She did her master's in sociology and American studies from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, United States. She started her career in literal writing with the Youth Times, a Times of India publication. Later she served as its editor from 1976 to 1979. Prior to it, she worked as journalist. Jung came into the limelight with the publication of Unveiling India in 1987. Later, she published several books dealing with social issues, including abused children and women's problems. Jung is noted for her lively and vivid descriptions, though she rarely gives its solutions. There are few expressions that we come across before reading this chapter. Let us try to understand their meaning before reading, and let us understand in better way when you read these expressions in the context. Looking for. What does looking for mean? Look for. Look for means search, trying to locate, trying to find out. So looking for is searching. Slog their daylight hours. They are slogging, they are working hard, they are struggling continuously during the daytime. Slog their daylight hours. So during the daytime, they are slogging, they are working hard, they are struggling persistently. Roof over his head. A place to live. Roof over his head. A place to live. Perpetual state of poverty. So continuous state of poverty or endless impoverishment. They remain impoverished. They may remain poor. Dark hurtments. So these are the hurts which do not have enough lighting facility. So hurts divide of a light. So dark hurtments. So these are the hurts where there is no light. Impose the baggage on the child. So because of their profession, they have been enforced to remain in that profession because of their tradition. So impose the baggage on the child. So enforce the profession on the child. It's usually the tradition of the bangle makers that their children also get skilled in bangle making and they continue their tradition. And this is what we'll find in many villages. And this is what is happening there in Firozabad. Let us study the first story of Sahib. Sahib is the rag picker. Now every morning the writer sees this young rag picker who visits garbage dump near her house and is looking for gold. Now when the writer says that he searches for gold, she is saying ironically, because although the garbage dump is full of useless things, thrown away things, still it's a very valuable, precious for these rag pickers because they find something valuable in the garbage dump. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Sometimes I find money in the garbage. So that's why it's like a gold for them. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning, scrounging for gold. So here this rag picker is looking for gold, something valuable in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. So the writer is living there nearby and that garbage dump is there nearby, and she always comes across this child every morning who is a rag picker. Sahib left his home long ago. So Sahib is from where? He is from Bangladesh. Set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. Amidst, in the middle of the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. So long back, they have left. So his home is there in Dhaka and in the middle of lush green fields. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him. So what memory he has got is that whatever mother has told, that there were many storms. So long back they have come to Delhi. And here is a child laborer. What is he doing? He is a rag picking. That's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. So they are living there in the outskirts of Delhi. They left home because they thought that if they come to the city, they'll be able to earn their livelihood. Now here, gold is referring to what? Gold is referring to something precious that they find there in the garbage. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. So I can't do anything else. And here, the writer says, go to school. I say glibly. I say very easily. Now glib, see, says very easily. Glib, realizing immediately how hollow, how empty. So she is speaking so easily in a very confident way. Go to school, she just says. But she realizes that whatever the advice she gives is empty. It's a meaningless. It has got no sense. Because he won't be able to go to school because he can't afford. His parents want him to earn. His parents want something he should bring home so that they can lead the life. Sahib says that he wants to join the writer's school. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. So Sahib says, there is no school here, so once the school is built, I will go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. So here the writer says that I will build a school. Will you come to that school? Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world, dark world. Abound, there are plenty. So here, the writer has made a promise, but she knows that she cannot fulfill that promise. It was a kind of joke. She never intended to open a school and she feels ashamed of herself. Sahib was not hurt because he is used to such kind of false promises. And they exited in plenty. He was surrounded by such false promises made by everyone. He does not know what it means. After months of knowing him, I asked him his name, Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. And he doesn't know what it means. And what does Sahib-e-Alam means? It means Lord of the universe. But what is his condition? He has got hardly anything to live by. He is a brag picker. He would have a hard time believing it that he is the Lord of the universe. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys. All they are what? All they are rag pickers. They are barefoot. They are not wearing anything. Who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months I have come to recognize each of them. Now just think about what is his name. His name is Sahib, Sahib-e-Alam, which means Lord of the universe. His name was quite opposite to his life. And he goes around with a group of friends and they are all rag pickers. And most of them, they don't wear any footwear. They appeared in the morning like the morning birds and disappeared at noon. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he answers simply. So the writer has asked one of those rag pickers why he was not wearing chappals. The boy simply replied that his mother did not get them down from the shelf. But was it the real reason? He answered simply. Even if she did, he will throw them off. Another boy has told, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. So probably they must have found that there in the garbage dump. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet. What is he doing? He's shuffling his feet, sliding them over each other. Probably he wants to hide that. I want shoes, says the third boy, who has never owned a pair all his life. He has never owned a pair of shoes. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. And when they come across something there, they are happy with all that. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. They want to explain, they want to hide their poverty. They are living in their perpetual state of poverty. They want to hide all that. And they go on giving different reasons for that. Sometimes it's a tradition. They don't want to say that it's because they lack money. They are in poor condition. If this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty, they know that they are all quite poor. But they try to give some excuse. Now here the narrator narrates a story. The writer tells us the story of a man from Udupi. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. So the writer narrates story told her by a man from Udupi. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an year of desolation. In the backyard, where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, but many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. Now desolation, the state of being empty. Now 30 years later, when she has visited this town, the temple town, now it's drowned in an air of desolation, probably is a kind of emptiness. And in the backyard where lived the new priest, they were red and white plastic chairs. That means there's a lot of improvement in the case of these priests, but there is hardly any improvement in the case of these underprivileged children, the child laborers. They have remained in the same condition. But whereas these priests, now their children could afford shoes, now they are well to do. Whereas these rag pickers have remained in the same condition over the years.